All right, all right. Good day, good day, good day. Is everybody up and at it this morning and ready to get going? I'd like to welcome you to another entry here for All for Success. And I am hoping that each of you is having a wonderful, wonderful morning. I'm doing pretty good, and I'm glad to be here. We finally got some sunshine. So, welcome to this wonderful Sussex friendly space, especially when I have the time to chat with many of you who are also Sussex friendly. If you want to go ahead and get yourself a cup of coffee, if you would rather sit back and relax and sip your coffee, I won't keep you all morning long, and I will not detract you from all the things that you need to do today. So I want to encourage each and every one of us to get out there, get your exercise in, and let's see if we can get started on what's happening with our Sussex family today. Now, listen, I want you to know that I am excited so far and very positive for everything that I have seen over the past few weeks. For everyone watching, Invictus has closed out. And wow, was it a wonderful, wonderful experience. Canada did an excellent job of presentation, the location, the participation, the welcoming that was given to most of the participants was extraordinary, except in the case of the people who were going to travel from Nigeria. There was of a little bit of a kerfuffle in some of the visas being accepted from the senior leadership of the military in Nigeria. And outside of that, I don't think they had too many other issues. So television-wise, it was a beautiful, beautiful presentation and extremely well done. So I would love to congratulate Invictus, All Things Canada for the moment, and Harry. Every year he gives a very inspiring speech, both in the beginning and at the end as he closes it out. And I am always left to remark on the fact that he is so uplifting to any and everyone who may be trying to overcome a lot of negativity to move forward. If anyone needs an inspiration, I tell them, you know, if you have the opportunity to definitely challenge yourself, listen to some of the speeches that Harry gives, because he's actually speaking from, it sounds like, deep within his own heart. And there is something extremely moving about that. Okay, that being said, get up and get out, right? Don't forget to get your exercise in. I am coming from the point of view, whenever I support the Sussexes, I'm a parent of adult children, and I always think about Harry and Meghan from the point of view of if I were Doria, Miss Doria. Um, I would see them very clearly as my own kids, and it would be alarming to me to read about and to see the obstacles that are placed in their path. For what reason? Well, we'll have to constantly watch and see if we could ever suss out what it is that drives and motivates the negativity. But a lot of it is definitely based in the reality of envy and jealousy. And you would think it's comical when you think of people who are in the places, the positions, and where they are, to look at someone else and find a reason to be envious and jealous. But it is an interesting fact, something that we all have to think about in these times, that it is often people who have a lot at their reach, people who are not visibly suffering the way that we would look at it. They don't seem outwardly to have any reasons to be angry or upset. And it is interesting. It is something that we need to study, because it is very often that these type of people are actually the source of much destruction, anger, envy, and anxiety amongst other people. And we can often see that so visibly in the world we operate in. You know, you just wonder what is going on to make some people so objectively angry and at odds with others when they apparently have everything that they need to have in order to do well. But it is a very strange phenomena, but indeed it is one we often see. So welcome again to All for Success. Now that you're ready for your exercise, I hope you got your sneakers on and you're heading out to walk and move around. I want to let you guys know, listen, we are now getting ready to go into phase 2. Invictus has wrapped up. Polo was excellent, and I hope each and every one of you had an opportunity to watch Polo. It was phenomenal. I might check it out again just to make sure that I start to get the names of some of the people who are involved, especially as they prepare for polo in the Olympics. But it was a phenomenal watch, and I learned a lot. So I encourage everyone, get out there and get a chance. You ought to check that show out. It's interesting. But we're now getting ready to move into phase 2 or 3 or 4, whatever. The Los Angeles fires, that vast amount of destruction and upset out in Los Angeles, slowed down our initial view of Meghan's new show that is supposed to come on Netflix. Now, I know many people do not want to have subscriptions to Netflix, and everyone who is counting their pennies and dimes, they're saying, okay, let me watch how many subscriptions I have. But I have to say, I do maintain Netflix. I'm one of those people. I've had it for quite a while. And often I'll find something on there to keep me busy and entertained. But here is the photo of the huge billboard advertisement for Meghan's upcoming Netflix show. And this was plastered across the big giant Videotrons in Times Square, New York. So we are hoping that this is going to gain a lot of attention because, of course, what did the naysayers do? Yes, of course. The naysayers hopped out because they thought her show was going to be airing actually right before the LA fires. So they spun up all of their wheels to talk about how awful it was going to be, how bad it was going to be produced, how fake it seemed. You know, I loved that one, all of these approaches. And I don't know if you all were like me. I started to sort of jot down the standard trope that was maybe mailed out to all of the UK tabloids so that you could hear the same sentences over and over. I do that because for me that's fun, like a game, when I'm watching any type of propaganda news. right? So we're looking at tabloid propaganda. The first thing to say about its negativity was all of her shows are a flop, right? We got to talk about how things are a flop. And we always use that word. Next, we will then pick apart whether she's being genuine, right? There's something about UK tabloid media that wants to paint this picture of Meghan not being genuine. And I don't know if you understand what are they talking about as far as genuine. Like, what do they mean by that? That is what, that she's a robot, or that she is a Stepford wife, or what I always say as far as my sci-fi leaning, are you saying this person is an android? I'm not quite sure what they're trying to put out, but with propaganda, we just use certain buzzwords. And when we use these buzzwords, we make you fill in the blank with what we mean in the negative way, right? So it's a flop. Nothing is defined. We don't count how many views we have. We're not talking about whether the ratings are great. We just throw that word out. When we say that she's not genuine, I don't know if they want you to think she's, an automaton or not a real person. I mean, she was an actress, right? So they toss that out. And then usually they always like to wrap it up with how they would prefer she had done a particular action. So I heard a lot of naysayers who were reading the script of, well, why was she working in another person's kitchen? Like, why wasn't she doing this show from her own kitchen? Isn't that interesting? It's like, why did she need to be in her own kitchen to do any type of cooking collaborations, right? I mean, Master Chef is done in a giant warehouse. So it's really intriguing how many things are put upon her to do or not do in order to paint a picture, a mirage of there's something wrong here, right? But because we all know the origin, because we're paying attention to how that originates, UK tabloid media, and how they probably typed out their lines of derision and passed it out to all of their minions, they're repeating the same thing over and over. And they've been doing this now for what? 5+ years? And yet they haven't given it a rest. It's quite shocking. So I thought that for our own uplift, I think I have the next clip of what she is getting ready to present. So I just want you to know that I think it's going to be at least interesting enough to hold my attention. So we will see. But today, for all practical purposes, I want to present you guys with some sort of we're going to kind of focus on what Meghan is getting ready to do day because she's got quite a few things coming up and they're going to be fun. So if this clip plays, I hope you all are entertained by it.
Thing about Koreatown, you could go to all ages clubs and karaoke bars.
I was part of dance crews, all that stuff.
You were?
Yeah.
No one talks about all the dances that were such a big deal. Not the actual dance,
Like
but the
Roger
dances.
Rabbit
The
era?
Roger Rabbit and the Kid and Play, and it was just so much fun.
Man, you and I are so similar. You and I are like, we should have met a long time ago.
Do you listen to music when you're cooking?
I do. I listen to a lot of lyrical hip hop, jazz, sometimes speed metal, death metal.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
What's speed metal?
Just like dark,
That doesn't sound like the joy of cooking.
Yeah, but we all have different sides to who we are.
That's true. Multifaceted folks. That's what we are.
It's good for when you're butchering. So I cut these into squares.
Look at what we made. Thing about
Guys, let's hope that that is going to be as enjoyable as I think it is going to be. I thought it was hilarious in that short clip when the cook is talking about listening to, I think it's dark metal, heavy metal bands, and Megan has that look on her face you see in this picture here, where she is like so shocked at which type of music he's saying he likes to listen to while cooking. But then when he specified, well, dark metal, it's a bit dark or whatever, and I usually listen to it when I'm butchering something, she is almost horrified adjacent. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be, I think, stop action moments during this filming that we're going to have to think about as this show goes on. So I thought that second clip was great. So guys, again, I am looking forward to this show. So here's something I wanted us to kind of think about and then kind of reflect on. And you tell me how you piece these thoughts together. Sometimes folks ask, well, why do you care about the Sussex family? Like, why am I concerned? Or why do I even talk about Harry and Meghan overall? And now, my movement here in the YouTube space, that's also like a personal journey of me learning about working with YouTube and doing various podcasts and trying to worm my way into various types of voice work. So that's just kind of a fun slash hobby that I want to learn about. But why specifically do I focus on the positiveness, the positive aspects of the life of Harry and Meghan? Well, here's how I think about that. For one, I remember the life and kind of the initiation of Diana, Princess Diana, his mother. I was a young woman when that courtship, marriage, and divorce was actually going on. I recall the reality of it. Now, from my point of view, without knowing any of the details, I felt that this young girl was really left, to her own devices and sort of isolated. I just felt that way. Now, what is happening in my mindset today is that the story of Harry and Meghan, to me, is representative of the greater world. And by that I mean, here you have two people who, from all accounts, were apparently going through their life, pursuing their life's ambitions. And for a reason that would appear to be, you will not do what we say, how we say you should do it, when we say you should do it, that you will not give up the control of your very life. Thus, we will destroy the life you wish to have. So to me, that was a demonstrative effect of the greater world that we live in. And I thought about that as just a general citizen in any particular nation. People are trying to control a lot of things about your life. And I'm not talking about frivolous items like where you go, what you eat, or something like that. But I'm talking in terms of who it is you are actually striving to be. And we're being funneled, in a sense, or for lack of a better term, often we are herded into a particular movement or in a particular direction that in fact may not be where we want to go. And so you've got this, to me, demonstration of the greater world that we all live in, that in effect we are all in this battle that Harry and Meghan are in, although theirs is basically televised, right? They are, in appearance, they are simply trying to live the life they wish to live. And they are basically being punished worldwide for that decision. Think about that. And think about that in terms of the rest of us in the rest of the world. You know, many of us, we often feel like we're under pressure, from work or family or anything in our own lives. And you feel like, oh my goodness, I just can't get it right, or I can't do this, or I can't move forward. But think about it in terms of someone actually standing next to you or behind you or around you, and they're absolutely taking actions to bring down everything you set forward to do. So for that, it is definitely a demonstration of our greater world. And what I noted is that it is a sublime indication of some realities. Now you might wonder, okay, sublime, depending on a lot of your affiliations and depending on the type of affiliation people have, you might wonder, sublime, what is meant by that? Well, there are several meanings, and then I'll tell you which one I'm looking at. So sublime could be like, lofty, grand, or exalted in thought or expression, right? Like it's like you're trying to have a big, lofty, grand idea. Or it could be out of understanding spiritual, intellectual, or moral work. I'm more in tune with that type of thought. And then it's tending to inspire awe, usually because of elevated quality, as of beauty, right? Things like that, grandeur. So it's sublime in that it's sort of a perception that isn't extravagantly demonstrated, but you perceive it, right? And so in that way, you have Harry and Meghan, in my opinion, that seem to exude a layer of positivity. They seem to exude a layer of exaltedness, right? And it is somewhat natural. And when other people feel that or they see that, many people despise. They despise that in other people. So again, back to the reality of the greater world. There are many in the world that because they perceive, they sense or they feel that others are happier, they're doing better, they're, let's say, more attractive, it drives them nuts, and they tend to want to tear that apart, right? So it's the reality of Harry and Meghan, their existence, their movement through this world, as they are trying to give and be an example of, no matter how negative the world is coming at them, they will continue to attempt to strive forward, as is the reality of many of us in our day-to-day lives. Because all around us, there are things put in place, things that are just simply a part of this world that are trying to take you off track, right? Trying to lower how you feel about yourself, trying to enforce you to feel bad about your own progress or your own status. I mean, believe it or not, there are those that if you actually look like you are having a great time, like if there are a group of people and they're outside having a good time, there are people who, when they see that, they become enraged. It's madness, but it's true. So look, just for a hot minute while you think about that moment of crazy, let me see who's in here and let me welcome you guys to All for Success. Oh my goodness, I see that we have, it would appear, Connie Balmer. Oh my goodness, thank you for being here at All for Success. I have to tell you, as a super squatty, I do have to get back into my list of all the chats that I'm missing for all of my faves. Connie Balmer, it is so great to see you here. I welcome you. Thank you so much for your support. I'm still working very hard to do this in a better way. I'm working on it. I would love to tell you thank you so much. Also, I see Lorna Williams checked in. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you so much for at least spending some time stopping by to see what I'm saying today. And I feel like I'm fumbling, but I'm going to try my best. Lorna Williams also says that they are also controlling what you eat. This is true. An example, let's see if I can see that. Example, how many varieties of apples do you see in the grocery store shelves in regards to how many varieties are in the world? You know, I don't know. That's a whole lot more, I'm assuming, right? A whole lot more in the world. But we only get, I think most of the time I see, what is it, Honey Crisp? Yeah, Honeycrisp. That's the one I usually see. But you're correct. You're absolutely correct. And my family and I, we were talking about how things are made to be presented to us in the grocery stores, right? How they are presented, whether they are colored, dyed, polished, waxed. You know, just think about that. Waxed up to be more shiny. It's madness. Connie Balmer also says, yes, please. I am happy to be here. Thank you so much. You guys are fantastic. But I know I'm a lot less exciting as some of the squatties that I watch who have me laughing all day, every day. I get a real hoot, and I do need to renew my subscriptions on several of my YouTubers, and that's because this is a side note, I had a credit card incident where I had to actually cancel everything that was attached to one of my credit cards. And so it has caused me for about a month or so, I need to redo all of my revolving credit card deductions for people that I had subscribed to. So I've got to go back and remember who was on my list. So that's a side note. But yeah, I had some phony charge or fake attempted charge somewhere. And I was like, what is happening? I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I don't know if I hit something accidentally while online, but it really blew my mind. So I had to close out everything. But yes, back to the food. Yes, food, where you live. I mean, here in the U.S., I don't know if all of you are from the U.S. perspective, but almost now in and around every city, even in the rural areas, almost every patch of what was agricultural farmland, someone is trying to build 200 to 300, 400 homes squeezed in side by side on all of this beautiful land that was out there for growing food. Now, I have to admit, I'm not one that's heavy on apartment living, but I there's nothing wrong with apartment living. But we are seeing giant complexes be built. And I can't help but ask myself, are there that many new people who need places to live? I'm trying to get the numbers in my head, especially in and around some of the cities and towns that I live in. When I see the number of apartment complexes and the number of families that they can house, I'm thinking, who are all these people? And where are all these people coming from? But maybe they're, I don't know if they're just moving from one area to another and perhaps moving out of other cities. But it is remarkable. My town has gone from somewhere around 100,000 to practically double in that size in maybe 10 years. It's incredible. So yes, that is a push of population. And we have to remember, and again, using Harry and Meghan as like an identifier or a model. As more and more people are moving through these towns and cities and apartments, there is an element of control in play. There is a vast movement to attempt to control everyone in a certain manner, whether it's financially or not. We are right now hitting this juncture in our time and place where finances are becoming tight. People are becoming a little bit on edge. People are becoming a little unsure of how their finances are going to play out. And so they're worried. Well, let's look at what that worry will do to you. Let's contemplate. Let's get some kind of advance warning on what it means if you are worried about your finances and how you are going to make ends meet over the next 5-10 years. That will change your entire mode of operation, and it changes your entire temperament. You may not feel like having those good times that I'm talking about, the smiling and the laughing and the fun. You may feel that you need to back off on that. And you better believe that there are people out there that want to see you as miserable as possible. Again, think about Harry and Meghan. Right? They are an example of exactly that. So I see their movement and I see their struggle throughout their own day-to-day lives as a sample of the greater world, if that makes any sense. Right? So as I moved through, I began to think, now, why is it that people would feel that way negatively about them? So here's what we have to investigate. Well, who are considered threats to the world or the standard order? Right? Who are considered threats? And that is the problem. The advent into the UK royal family, even into the British way of life, this individual who was going to be very different, right? Who actually wanted to do the reality of what the royal family stands for. The royal family, they go out and they do these different things and they act these certain roles. But here you had an individual step into the royal family that wanted to make what you look like you're doing an actual reality. Right? Look at how dangerous that was in that environment. If you're pretending to be something, right? I'm pretending to be a farmer. I go outside, I get in my coveralls every day. I go out with a rake and I pretend to rake the yard as if I'm farming, but I'm pretending. What happens when an actual farmer steps next to me and starts to actually plant items and grow things? It becomes very obvious that all I was doing was standing there in the clothing, pretending to rake the yard, right? Now, what is that? That is a threat, ladies and gentlemen. That is a huge, dangerous threat. So let's look at that. The difference between what Harry and Meghan does. And then I want you to take a moment and check this out.
Get some broccoli. If this grows, you have to let me know. We're going to keep. Absolutely, that will be the first. Joint military for me with okay. Yeah. Get some broccoli. If this grows, you have to let me know. We're going to keep. Absolutely, that will be the first. Joint.
Yeah, right. You saw that? There you are showing your gardening skills. And now this young lady is going to have an entire show where she shows you actually things that she's actually gone outside with people who may have helped her. She may have had assistance, but that she in fact actually works with her hands in the ground for real when she has time. And I'm sure she has other people to help with the caretaking. But you see the difference? That was going out with an entourage in a suit, pretending to do whatever that task was that was put in front of you to show how much fun it is to put some seeds in dirt. And yet you have this person, our dear Duchess, who is going to be doing that for real. You see the danger? So that entire order, they saw that as a threat. It's damaging because the reality, the spotlight, was going to be on you. It was going to show the beautiful spotlight of the fact that you are faking. And that's a threat. That is an absolute threat to the order of things. Okay, so we're gonna keep that in mind, and I want everyone to pay attention to that as we gear up, because her show should be coming out. I think it's Monday or Tuesday. I believe they said March 4th, right? And I know I'm going to be there, and hopefully we're going to have some commentary on it. But here, what was she doing? Cutting strawberries into hearts for Valentine's. Come on. That's a real thing that she's doing there, right? So that reality put up against them was just too much. They couldn't handle that. It was frightening. And so that's why her ad for her show is looming on the big screen over Times Square. And the actual origin of all of the negativity is going to be running around in dress-up fashion, trying to film snippets of them doing something similar. Because as I did an earlier broadcast, and I might do a replay, this is a form of psychological warfare where if you're not careful, I will become you, right? When you look up, I will be turning into you, which was a theme on a horror movie, Single White Female. I'm not sure if any of you remember that. That's kind of an old movie. But it's a theme where this person tries to take over your life, and then the next thing you know, they're turning into you. It's a true horror story. Okay, guys, I know I've dragged you through this for too long. So listen, I'm going to beg for the likes and the shares and, and definitely subscribe if you have time. I understand if you've got too many subscriptions going. I fell into that predicament. And guys, I also will let you know I am not yet in that monetization zone, but I'm going to get there eventually. So I'm still working on it and I'm still trying to organize myself to do it. But I want you to know I thank you and I thank you and I thank you. And once again, I'm going to finalize a few thoughts. Let's see who's here as I beg for my likes and subscribes. Lorna Williams tells us that Red Delicious is awful. What are you saying? Yeah, Honey Crisp is pretty good. Ambrosia, I don't think I've tried that, but I like the sweet ones. And I do like the old Granny Smiths that you cook with. Connie Balmer says she has a friend who is in charge of marketing in supermarkets. Yes, specialized to draw our attention. Yes, have you noticed those kind of pinkish glowing lights that are over the delicatessen, over the meats? I used to work at Kroger when I was a teenager. Yeah, that's the real deal. And I will never forget being, I think, at Piggly Wiggly. Yeah, she said always pick a product that's far behind. That might help you. It depends on some of the stores because they play all kind of games, reshuffling products. Reshuffling products, they're dangerous. And yes, manufacturers definitely pay for placement on their grocery shelves so that the ones that yes, are placed in the middle. They're right at your eye, usually at your eye level, right? And when I worked at Kroger, I'll never forget, we had a moment in our delicatessen where they would take some of the older meat and then put barbecue sauce on it and then repackage it, recellophane it, so that it looked like something, seasoned for you to cook immediately. Oh my gosh, they used to do some real bizarre things. They were truly odd. Connie Balmer also says, thank you. I'll tell Lydia to highlight. Oh, look at you. That would be, you know what? That is so awesome. I absolutely would love that. That is so awesome. But you are so absolutely correct. I will never forget that these folks were doing the meats, like the ones that are rotisserie or whatever. They may be okay. I mean, I eat them, of course, but the light on them, super, super bright. Super, super bright. So take it from me, a Burger King and a Kroger worker as a teenager. That food demonstration can be very scary. And yes, again, a lot of things in our world, like I said, going back to Harry and Meghan being like an example of what might be happening in the greater world. Those things that are done, the marketing, the propaganda, it's basically presenting things to you that are lies and are fake, but presenting it to you in a fashion that you will either rave about it and even accept it, right? That is how we are living these days. It's amazing. And we really need to be very careful about that attitude. So, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone who is here at All for Success, I want to always leave you with a few of my scriptural thoughts. Again, I always have to do the caveat. No, I am not recruiting you to a cult of any kind. I'm not going to pass out any Kool-Aid during this moment. But sometimes I have a thought and there's a scriptural reference that brings it to my mind. So I always like to share. And perhaps if you're interested, you can always go to the Bible if you like and kind of follow up with what I come up with. I have a dog in my neighborhood that seems to be having a fit. So let's begin with this one today, Mark 3 and 24. And this is in light of how things are happening in and around us in the world today. And here's something we need to note, that Mark 3:24 says, if a kingdom is divided against itself, it cannot stand. Now, Jesus was saying this, he was talking about it in the context of kingdoms and cities and households. So that is also to be remembered even in the household and amongst the families. And let's take again the view of why am I interested in Harry and Meghan? Because they are like a beacon. They are like a talisman of a sort. They are like a projection of how things operate in the rest of the world's realities, right? So they're dealing with a divided kingdom. The royal family itself is constantly twisting and turning and fighting amongst themselves. And as Jesus has remarked, this cannot stand. Now, it may take time to see how things unravel, but be assured that is how it will come out. Same thing here in our world. Even in the U.S., there are people fighting and factions coming up about different things. Yeah, those conflicts will not be resolved if you're fighting amongst yourselves. And that's something we have to resolve, or we can be assured our kingdom will not stand. Psalms 27 and 14 says, listen, even in all of this nonsense and all of this crazy, wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. What that does not mean is lack of preparedness. Okay? What that does not mean is do not pay attention and prepare. But it does mean that if you are a believer like I am, or I find myself to be, is that there is a greater plan. And we, of course, we can look into the possibility that that greater plan will work out. But we must prepare, correct? So with that being said, I want to tell you guys thank you for being here. I loved having the photos of Meghan and Miss Doria because like I envision my thoughts, I'm hoping that Miss Doria would appreciate my take on how I see Harry and Meghan moving through this world. So listen, guys, stay active, connect positively, and accept your own victories. I want to encourage you to move forward and get out there and enjoy your day. Give yourselves a round of applause and thank you so much for joining this chat.
Thing about Koreatown, you could go to all ages clubs and karaoke bars.
I was part of dance crews, all that stuff.
You were?
Yeah.
No one talks about all the dances that were such a big deal. Not the actual dance,
Like
but
the
the
Roger
dances.
Rabbit
The
era?
Roger Rabbit and the Kid and Play, and it was just so much fun.
Man, you and I are so similar. You and I are like we should have met a long time ago.
Do you listen to music when you're cooking?
I do. I listen to a lot of lyrical hip hop, jazz, sometimes speed metal, death metal.
No, you don't.
Yeah,
What's speed metal?
just like dark.
That doesn't sound like the joy of cooking.
Yeah, but you know, we all have different sides to who we are.
That's true. Multifaceted folks. That's what we are.
It's good for when you're butchering. So I cut these into squares.
Look at what we made. Thing about Koreatown, you could go to all ages clubs and karaoke bars.
I was part of dance crews, all that stuff.
You were?
Yeah.
No one talks about all the dances that were such a big deal. Not the actual dance,
Like
but
the
the
Roger
dances.
Rabbit
The
era?
Roger Rabbit and the Kid and Play, and it was just so much fun.
Man, you and I are so similar. You and I are like we should have met a long time ago.
Do you listen to music when you're cooking?
I do. I listen to a lot of lyrical hip hop, jazz, sometimes speed metal, death metal. And that's
No, you don't.
Yeah,
What's speed metal?
just like dark.
That doesn't sound like the joy of cooking.
Yeah, but you know, we all have different sides to who we are.
That's true. Multifaceted folks. That's what we are.
It's good for when you're butchering. So I cut these into squares.
Look at what we made. Thing about Koreatown, you could go to all ages clubs and
Oh, yeah.
karaoke bars.
I was part of dance crews, all that stuff.
You
know?
were?
Yeah.